innocence. You can sing all your songs and your festivals, but if it doesn't have justice in the poor, it's just noise in the ears of God.
I'm Michael Brown. I'm with Interchange, and we're on the corner of Hayden Cole, just a block down from the famous Hayden Ashbury. You know, as Christians, we can get this idea sometimes that we're fixed and the homeless or the poor or people in poverty are broken, and that we have all the answers. We got to get away from this thinking that we're just here to help them. We got to get off that donkey and just be like living life with them and sharing in that journey with them. And that's where the richness is at. You know, we're just sharing the life. And you know, I guess some people think that's strange, but you know, it doesn't seem so crazy to me.
And let's go with first, because I heard the issue of building relationships or living life with other people, but an inability within this church to fully live lives together. How do we balance that? Can we live life with people who are coming to a soup kitchen if we're not sharing life here? And how much of life do we have to share? How do we balance that? Because I think what Pastor Brett was just saying, the people helping you in ways you don't need, I think that's kind of the danger when we don't have relationships, is we're going to impose our solution on them. So can we enter into relationships? What's the requirement before we do that? Where do we have to be? And how do we do it?
And if you're all trying to get to the head of the class, nobody will get there. So you have your people that will go to the soup kitchens, and you have your people that will join a support group to help people, and some people sing, and some people dance, and you just have to embrace that difference. We all have something to bring to the table.
It's interesting when we have interfaith hospitality. I usually try to be hostess once a week when they come. And just sitting and talking with them and observing how they interact with their children, listening to the children, talking to them, having to get up early and where they're going to go to school next week, because you know it just breaks your heart. And the last time they were here, there was a young woman with 2 children, and her husband was in the hospital, and he needed a procedure, but it wasn't going to be covered by, for some reason they fell through the cracks. So it was just like he was lingering over here in the hospital in Marlton. And when he came out, who knows where he would go the next time. It's just really, I mean, it takes an evening with people like that, and they're all different. Just listening and observing, and just sometimes I go home and I can't sleep because I want to do something, but I mean, you know, there's just not that much I can do. The county and
you know, one of the reasons Pastor O and I have been trying to stress, you know, small groups and whether, you know, they're groups that are newly formed or groups that already exist. You know, there is a sense of support within the group already. So, for example, you know, choir people tend to look out for choir people. You know, not that it's bad that they look out for choir people, but they're people who they know, and they have a relationship with, and they see regularly, and they know a little more intimately. You know, my Thursday morning Bible study, I think, are people who care about and share and check in with one another, and you know, and I think they can minister to one another better than I can minister to them sometimes. I mean, there's certain things that I can do for people, but I also think they know, you know, what's needed. I think of one of our people, Michelle Hack, who just had her ankle rebuilt, you know, recently, and you know, and she's got some friends here, and she's got some friends out there, and so, you know, it sounds like some people came to her assistance as much as she wanted. So I think some of that is, you know, getting known in these kind of small groups. I was just sharing with someone last night who's not a member here, is not a member anywhere actually, but about I've encountered several single people in the church who find it hard to cook good food for themselves. And I said, well, what if we got together a cooking group that, met on Monday night or whatever and, prepared food and you all divvied it up between people and you sent it home for the week, and you cooked together, you socialized together and you made food and you took it home. And people I mentioned that to were like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. So I'm like, we probably ought to make that sounds like something that ought to happen, give it a try for a while and see, for people who that would be helpful to do. You all gather together, you cook and talk and socialize, and then you get something from it that's going to help support you and nourish you during the week. Then the king will say to those at his right hand, "Come, you that are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me." Then the righteous will say to him, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food, or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it we saw you a stranger and welcomed you, or naked and gave you clothing? And when was it that we saw you sick or in prison and visited you?" And the king will answer them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me."